Hi, this is Willie. I'm going over the brakes on this 92 Buick. Want to make sure everything is safe and kosher before I put it on the road. I already had a blown brake line, but I wanted to check over everything just to make sure everything was in good order before I put it on the road, which is very important. Case in point, one line back in here was already leaking, but to see lines in this kind of condition, they really should be replaced because you don't want them blowing when you're on the road. The park brake does work on this car, so no issues there. The only line that had been replaced going to wheels would be the line going to this wheel, and it was just run from here up behind the splash guard and to the brake reservoir. When that was replaced, they should have replaced all of them because they were all pretty rusty. The other line that's been replaced would be the one back here running up to the master cylinder. I think both lines from the master cylinder going to the brake distribution have been replaced. Once again, if you're going to do 3 lines, you might as well have done all of them. So checking over the car, the rotors and the drums were in good shape. These seem pretty nice and flat, no deep scoring in here. The brake pads are not severely rusted. They're in good shape. This one being the worst one, but mainly just the anti-squeal pad is rust on this, but the actual plate is still in good shape. And there's still plenty of pad material on there. Another thing I've been doing is I took a wedge and opened up this bracket to get the old line out so I can salvage the original bracket here that holds the brake line for both sides. The calipers I want to check to make sure they were moving properly, in which case the pins and the rubber bushings were a little stiff. So what happens to these is the rubber bushings that go in here that these pins ride in were getting squished in tight against the pin because of rust in here, so I had to clean the rust out. One was actually so bad I had to use a Dremel tool, the die grinder with a reaming bit, carbide bit, to clean all the rust out. And I had to order new bushings because 2 of the 4 bushings on these front brake calipers were bad. So I have new bushings coming in for the brake calipers. The pistons were moving free, no problems there. And I sprayed the inside of the cup with some fluid film and wiped out the excess, and I stuck some grease in behind the seal to hopefully prevent some corrosion. Not enough grease in there that would get on the pad and cause problems. So I just wanted to warn you guys for that. You don't want to get grease or oil or even brake fluid on your pads or shoes because it can cause them to delaminate. As I had mentioned earlier, the drums were in good shape. They came right off nice and easy. There's no lip worn in here. There's no deep gouges in here. Looking closer at the rear calipers, I don't see any leaks anywhere. I don't see any cracks in the rubber. Pads look good. I don't see any serious rust. The hardware in here isn't bad, but I'm going to replace the hardware as a pair because I had problems on the other side, which I'll go over soon. That's the OEM line back here, but the front half of this line has been replaced, which I will show in just a little bit. So, wheel bearings are spinning nice and free. There's no play in them. There's no noise or rough movement in them. No issues there. Here's the other side. This side actually had a loose spring. The spring that's supposed to go from here to the other side was actually just laying in the bottom of the drum. So that was actually an issue there. I ordered a whole hardware kit. I'm just going to replace the hardware on both these brakes because they have been sitting for a few years. The tires date back to 2016. I also checked over the tires, and the tires don't show any dry rot cracks on them at all. Another thing I forgot to mention is I did grease all the grease fittings up in the front. There's one on the ball joint down there, and then on the tie rod end. There's no grease fitting on the inside tie rod end. And this caliper are also cleaned up, and I pushed the pistons in on both of them as well. Here's that. Oh, where is that? There it is. Here's that line bracket I was going to reuse, and this one goes up here. Right there. Holds the line that goes from the connection here to the caliper. The caliper will be sitting up in the front. So now for the real main reason I'm doing this video is you want to check your brakes for any kind of safety hazards. And one thing you never want to find on your brake lines are compression fittings. Here's one I found back here. This is a compression fitting, and before I even took this apart, it was leaking already. This being the half of the line that they replaced, and this being the original up in the front. This fitting was leaking before I even touched it, and I was a little bit worried if it was a compression fitting, and sure enough it was. These are something you never put on brake lines because they can cause leaks, and they can also blow apart, and you'll lose your brakes. Here's the other one, untouched, and you can see how it's wet. And I didn't even touch that. That's been leaking since I saw it and I came under here checking it. And you can see up in the front, because it's been leaking, the brake fluid has been causing it to corrode because the brake fluid will attract moisture. So I need to get these things off of here. They're dangerous. They should never be on a brake line, ever. That's a big no-no. There's a certain place in the afterlife for people that do this kind of stuff as they get into a car accident from losing their brakes, to say the least. So yeah, that's something you don't want to be seeing. If you see that in a car, make sure it's not a compression fitting. Make sure it's a bubble flare union for brake lines. While I was under here, I also sprayed the adjuster with some oil so I can adjust that up when I'm done with it. I don't see any issues with the casing on the park lines. These are the original unions from the factory, I'm pretty sure. I'll check these out, but I'm pretty sure these are original. I'm hoping the brake line kit comes with new ones of these. We'll have to see. But yeah, the housings for the brake cables seem to be in good shape. No serious rust on them. Kind of hard to see up here, but yeah. Boot's still in place, different things like that. So, a lot of things you gotta watch out for. Case in point, there's a transmission fluid leak with something I didn't know about until I was checking it over, and then I noticed a puddle up underneath it. That thing could have starved a transmission for oil, and I never would have even known it when I got on the road. So yeah, you always want to check those things over when you're working with used cars. And I don't think I got a good shot of the hood the last time I did the video on this. So there you go. This car is actually pretty nice. I don't see any dents anywhere on the car. The paint is in pretty good shape, but the clear coat does have a lot of scratches in it. It is a 111,000 mile car. We'll see if I can't clean that up maybe in the future. But the fender flares are all in good shape. I don't see any rust back here. The aluminum rocker covers that are screwed on are not very pretty, but I don't think that'll be detrimental to the car. So it's pretty nice shape. I hope you liked the video. If you did, make sure you give me a thumbs up. And as always, have a good day. Thanks for watching, and bye.